All right, lads and lasses, and g'day, mates. Welcome to the final match preview of the 22-23 Premier League season from your mates here at the Toon on the Pod, putting the pod in Antipodean. Just made it up today. That's pretty good, wasn't it? We are the Southern Hemisphere's #1 podcast for all things Champions League bound Newcastle United. And just before I introduce Mark, who's joining me here, let's just have a little listen to a little song. Oh, yeah. Oh, how good is that? I still can barely believe it. We actually did a podcast after the qualification against, who was it against? Bloody Leicester, yeah. So we've already touched on this, but this is the first time I've been on the podcast
2 days ago
since we qualified, and I just had to play that tune again because it is it's been a very, very long time, too long since we had that tune associated to us in any sort of positive way. But joining me today to talk about this Chelsea preview is Marky Mark here with me in Brisbane. How the hell are you, mate?
I'm doing all right. Much better after that result the other morning. It wasn't the result we all wanted to be able to sign off on the dotted line for it, but you know we needed a point. We'll take a point and move onwards and upwards from here on.
It wasn't the score we wanted, but it was the result that we
definitely
needed.
The result we wanted.
Yeah,
and the fume that happened afterwards from most of the other fan bases has made it all the more worthwhile.
It's still going on. It's still rattling away, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we've just had the announcement of well, it's being rumored still, but it sounds very likely that there's going to be an announcement soon regarding the new sponsorship of Newcastle United, and the fume meter has just went through the roof again.
Yeah.
Rumored annual sponsorship fee of 25 mil. We did hear 30 mil to start with, and that might have been in euros. It's 25 mil that we're hearing now, and we're still getting people saying, "Yeah, that's too much." That like, and it's like, it's not like it's 15 mil less than what Spurs get for a start, and you know there's going to be a ton of games. It's good value, Mark. It's got to be good value, mate, hasn't it? I mean, just before we get into this game here,
so
that's going to be great for us and our spending power, as well as the Champions League qualification, of course. But they haven't gone crazy with that fee, have they? It's kind of they've landed somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, look, I mean, given how much we were on the TV this year, like this season, we've been on the TV probably as much as any of the so-called Big Six. So, you know, if Chelsea sitting in like in mid-table can get the viewing numbers and the justifications behind them. Look, everybody's on board with wanting to know what's happening with us at the moment. So we are big news, whether people want to admit it or not. We're not going massively kind of crazy in terms of trying to break financial fair play, and I think our owners have been very, very good with making sure they're within the means, I guess you would say. They haven't gone nuts, but yeah, look, I mean, increase in sponsorship deal from that. We're going to get TV money, we're going to get prize money, we're going to get appearance money from the Champions League. All of that adds up to a pretty manic summer in the transfer market, if you ask me. But we'll wait and see.
Can't wait. It's going to be a good one. I hope it's going to be a good one, because you could make a case, as we were saying in the chat before, that you could replace a whole lot of this team, including probably more specifically the team on the bench, and maybe move some of the first teamers from this season onto the bench as the depth. You know, so you could see quite a few players coming in, but obviously they've been very street smart. They've basically removed ammunition, or at least with thought. They've removed ammunition from at least the league anyway to come at us with a big slap or a big ban or fine or whatever. But it's to be interesting to see. That should be coming out soon. We'll not talk any more about that. Let's get into this preview for the final game of the season, as I've said, down at Stamford Bridge against a Chelsea team that has really struggled this season. Let's have a look at the teams first of all. We've got Kepa in goal. Is this the same team as last time out, Mark?
This is pretty much what was playing against Man City, because let's be honest here, who knows how many players are going to be swapped in and out. Chelsea have got literally 47 players on their squad at the moment. Obviously, they're not all registered, so they can't play them all. But at the end of the day, they've got so many random players sitting on the bench and in reserves that you don't know what they're going to do. It's just throw the names in the hat and see who comes out, sort of thing.
Yeah, and we should also point out that we are recording this before Chelsea plays Manchester United in the morning, for us anyway. So there's always a chance that there could be some injuries and the like from this team. But this is what we are projecting for now based on what they did last time. That was Kepa, Fofana, Chalobah, Silva, and Cesar, and then Fernandes, Loftus-Cheek, and Gallagher in the middle. And then you've got Hall, Havertz, and Sterling up top. Are they really playing Sterling as a striker in this team?
Well, it's better than playing him as like a right back, which is what they were doing earlier in the season under Potter.
Good Lord. But I mean, he's a wonderful player as Sterling, but I'm not sure I'd have him up there leading the line.
Not as a lone striker. He's kind of, I would see him much more as a number 10, just playing off the main striker or out on the right hand side on the like not a wing, but an attacking right forward, if you like. But yeah, as a out and out number 9, I guess you would say, he just doesn't strike me as that sort of player.
Yeah. Anything else in this team that you want to pick out? It's been such a terrible season for Chelsea that it's hard to know how any of these people will have any mind to play this last game. It's been such a shocker. Anything you want to call out on this team in particular?
Probably Gallagher. I think there's a lot of rumors about him moving. I think he's probably the one that's surprised me that he's actually getting starts at the moment, because he's one of those players that's never really been in favor, and then all of a sudden he's kind of like getting a run of games in the side. He seems to be the one that's being talked about as likely to leave as well, but he doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay there, and it's kind of like, how much do you put down on that? Now that they've got some absolute class on the bench as well, so it's like, do they swap things around? Is it literally like, well, half of them are off on holiday, or they've sent players off to get surgery already, or sort of start their recovery for next season already? So I think Chelsea's kind of signed off. I'd be surprised if half of our squad's not signed off as well.
Yeah,
so
sure.
We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think it's important for Chelsea at the moment that there's a few players there that are probably either vying for their future, or trying to prove a point, or trying to secure a move to a decent club. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach the game.
Yeah, we'll touch on. We'll have a little preamble, a little waffle about what we think this team. What this game is going to be like, just after we get through some of these slides. Let's move on to the mighty Champions League mags. Eddie Howe Shithouse Champions League mags. What a team! I mean, I'll read through this, but it's obvious there's a major change at the back here. I'll let you talk about the reasons for that. But it's Dubravka at the back, bloody traitor. Dan Burn, Botman, Shaw, and Trips. Then we went for Anderson, Isaac, and Longy in the middle. Then you've got ASM, Miggy on the wings, and Wilson up top. So slightly jumbled, a rearranged team, I should say, not rather jumbled. It's just been rearranged. You've got Isaac behind Wilson, but the main talking point really is right at the start there. Tell us what happened to Nick Pope.
So Nick Pope, I woke up this morning. Social media was in a bit of a frenzy because the England squad was announced. Trippier was in there. Wilson was in there. No Nick Pope. And the usual thing of Gareth Southgate's a knacker, and he's messed up again, and why are we getting this treatment? How can he not put Nick Pope in? So I did a bit of digging. Turns out Nick Pope's been playing with a bit of a hand injury for the last couple of weeks. So he has disappeared off to get surgery on that. So he's nice and fit, ready for the start of next season. So that is why he is not in the England squad, and obviously won't be playing for us either.
Yeah, and those two games for the England squad, are they friendlies or are they qualifiers?
Absolutely no idea. Literally no idea.
Because
it's against like Macedonia and
Malta and North Macedonia, like games that should be so easy to win. If it's friendlies, they're completely pointless. So I assume they're qualifiers, but it could be completely wrong on that. And also a major omission in the middle is Bruno. What do you reckon is going on with Bruno G.
So I came up with this lineup mainly because of some comments that Eddie Howe said in the post-match from the Leicester game. Once we'd qualified, obviously they've sent Pope straight off for surgery. No messing about there. Hasn't wasted any time. Give him the most time to recover before the new season starts. And we all know that there's been a bit of a niggle on Bruno's ankle for quite some time. There's talk that he was suffering a bit with that ever since he got back from the World Cup. So I think as a pretty much meaningless game in terms of the grand scheme of things, I'd be very surprised if we're not just giving him the game off and letting him rest up and try to get him back fully fit. And we've got a couple of players there that are potentially Burn as well. Might get to the bench and give Target a go. Burn's obviously got his shoulder strapped, as we all saw when he took his shirt off after the Leicester game. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what changes Eddie Howe makes. I've gone for this lineup pretty much just because it kind of makes a bit more sense. I think ASM's on his last legs in terms of trying to prove himself, which is a shame. And we can have a debate about that in the off season, whether or not we think he's coming back or not. But it makes sense to kind of play him when we don't really have another option. Joe Linton's out as well. So our midfield choices is probably a little bit on the light side. Isak, for me, playing just behind Wilson's probably more effective than playing him out on the left-hand side when we are so light in midfield and desperate for somebody to be able to carry the ball and link up. So that was my thought process anyway. I mean, who knows? Shah might get rested so he doesn't get another concussion. We don't know that
yet. Every game he gets a concussion, doesn't he? I'm still not getting over that cup final. I would have been tempted to put Gordon on from the start in this game. He's been chomping at the bit to have a start. He hasn't had many, if any at all. I can understand the logic of the ASM, because if we are intended on getting rid, then this is the last chance really to get him in the shop window. Yeah. I mean, everyone knows what he's about, but nonetheless, you can remind people. I would probably put in Gordon in there, but otherwise, just again to give that midfield a bit of bite. But otherwise, it still doesn't look like a too bad a team, doesn't it? Really, based on how we've played all season.
No, for sure.
Let's just have a look at the tables, because I want to sort of. Chelsea's season has been so bad that they are in 12th right now, as you can see on the screen if you're watching, on 43 points. They have 2 games to play. There's the one in the morning against Man United, and then they've got us. They can only get to 49 points if they win both those games. And given that Palace is above them on 44, then they can only really go up one spot. Like, they aren't going to get any better than 11th. That's just a horrendous season for a team like Chelsea, isn't it? It's just so bad.
For the amount of money they've spent to be sitting there knowing that you're not going to get anything above 11th spot in the league at this time of year, I think is just absolutely appalling. Clearly, old Bowley's 12-man sides weren't doing the trick, so he's had to revert to his 11-man squads, and they've really found themselves wanting because of that lesser man in midfield or something.
I mean, just to read this out, they've played 36. They've only won 11 games. They've drawn 10 and they've lost 15. I mean, it's so bad. They've got 36 goals for and 42 against with a -6 GD. It's just a stinker. I can't remember a season like that from Chelsea for a very long time. They're so bad. And Newcastle, of course, Mighty Mags, heading to the Champions League, can't do any worse than 4th. As I say, Chelsea play Man United. I think that is at Manchester United. I think that's at Old Trafford, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Would you take a draw out of that, just so that on the last day we can potentially claim 3rd? I know you've said before you don't give a shit about the 3rd or 4th, but like psychologically and there's a slight bit more money as well in it. Would that be a favoured result, or do you literally just not give a flying monkeys?
No, look, I think in terms of me personally, my opinion is top 4 was more than we expected. I'm taking that with both hands. Genuinely, whether we finish 3rd or 4th makes a zero difference to the draw. There's no playoffs or anything like that for English clubs anymore. So whether we finish 4th or 3rd, we're still in the same pot. We're still going to get drawn against the same clubs. We've still got the same starting time in terms of the competition. There's like £900,000 or something for each position. So, it pays someone's wages for 2 weeks or whatever. Look, in terms of me personally, I genuinely don't care. If we finish fourth, then it's still been an absolutely amazing season. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But I would really, really like to finish third, just for the players and just for Eddie Howe, just to kind of say, well, you know what? We were the third best team in the league this season over 38 games. Stick that in your pipes and smoke it. All you whinging losers out there who are trying to justify that we've bought the league, that we've spending Saudi oil money, that we're ruining football, all of this stuff that we've heard over the last few days, just to kind of finish third and, rub a little bit more salt into the wounds would be quite priceless.
Yeah. Do you care if it's Liverpool or Man United in the other position?
I keep swaying on this. I think Liverpool have probably been more obnoxious over it than Man United, so I'm probably favouring Man United at this point.
Yeah. I think I would prefer to stay the way it is. Yeah, third and then Man United fourth. Our mate who joined us on the podcast, Tom, he's been giving us a bit of stick over a few things lately, hasn't he? Hello to Tom, if you're listening or watching. You're probably not, but anyway, hello. Let's have a look at the next slide, which is the form. Now, this isn't exactly one for one here because I'll start from Chelsea, but they're what was it? The 6 games on this list for each team. The sixth one, the one at the bottom, was against Real at home when they lost 2-0. So that one was Champions League, of course. Then after that, they lost at home to Brentford 2-0. And then they went away and lost at Arsenal 3-1. They got a win against Bournemouth away 3-1 on the 6th of May. So, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. They drew at home against Nottingham Forest 2-2. And then they lost away to Man City 1-0. Losing to Arsenal, losing to Man City, given the terrible season that they've had, and of course Real Madrid, that's not like a massive surprise. And that doesn't really tell the story of the rest of the season. But losing at home against Brentford 2-0 in particular, and not being able to beat Forest, it's a bit of a minging last few games, isn't it? I should have had a longer list here because I don't think they've been particularly brilliant for large parts of this season, and that's why they're down where they are. Newcastle, 4-1 win, 3-1 win, 4-1 win against Everton, 3-1 win against Southampton. We did lose against Arsenal, but most people did. Draw against Leeds, beat Brighton 4-1, absolutely destroyed them. 0-0 against Leicester, as you know, that got us Champions League. So, just looking on the form there, Mark, it kind of feels a bit like this should be a game that Newcastle go into expecting to win, which is unusual, especially down Stamford Bridge against a team like Chelsea. But is that what you would take away from the way the forms panned out for these two teams, or as we'll kind of touch on a bit more, do you think this doesn't really tell the whole story of Chelsea at the minute?
Look, I mean, Chelsea have been woeful this season. We've been good. The table doesn't lie. We're in third for a reason. Chelsea are in 12th for a reason. There's been chopping and changing of managers there. Frank Lampard, the new age Steve Bruce, is not exactly turning the form around in any great shape or form. They seem to have kind of signed off on the season, not really giving a crap anymore. Probably trying out a few of their squad players ready for next season to see who they can move on, be it against their will or just putting them in the shop window so other clubs are interested. But look, it's one of those games where if you look at that, you've got to think that if something was on the line, that we might be able to get a result from this. But I'm just thankful that it's not.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right.
I'm not sure my heart could have taken it.
Thank God we didn't go into this needing a result of some sort. And just finally on these slides, it's Craig's home and away stats that he's got here. So Chelsea, the home team, they've played 18 at home. They've won 6, drawn 6, and lost 6. Just so bad. They've scored 19 and conceded 18 at home. 38 yellows and 1 red. 68% of their goals are from open play. That amounts to 13 goals. They've conceded 7 from set pieces. Fortunately for them, we don't really score many from set pieces. And their average possession is nonetheless still fairly respectable, 58.8, so let's say 60%. As for Newcastle away, we've played 18, we've won 8, drawn 7, and lost just 3. And if we could just turn some of those draws into wins, we will be even higher again. We scored 31 and conceded just 18. We've got 31 yellow cards and no reds away from home. 68% of our goals are from open play. That's 21. And 3 goals conceded from set pieces. We don't have the stat for how many we've scored from set pieces, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a big fat round 0. And our average possession away from home is 51.3. So with those stats in mind, I'll just leave them up while we talk about this. We've kind of touched on it already, but I just wanted to have a little chat about how we see this game going. So ultimately, given that Chelsea can only really go one position, even if they win next 2 games, and they're still below halfway, and given that Newcastle can't go any lower than 4th, it does have a bit of a rubber duck feeling to this. Not rubber duck, dead rubber feeling to this. It does have a dead rubber feeling to this. Like, it's kind of got it has little real consequence to either team, how this one really plays out in the stats sense, if you like. But how do you think Chelsea will approach this? Because you've already just said there, they might want to be getting some players out into the window, and to sell some of these players, they'll need to kind of showcase them, and maybe that's an opportunity to do this in the next 2 games. This will be at home, so you'd expect them that they'd want to sign off with a result, just to kind of just have a bit of pride in the team this season. You know, they've got Poch coming in next season. He might be watching. He probably is. They'll be preparing for their futures next season, a lot of these guys. And I think also from our side of things, Eddie Howe's not the kind of person who sees any game as a free hit. So I kind of feel like he would want to go on a high as well, with the maximum amount of points that he can, which would be obviously 73 points. So there's a lot of narratives in this game, and it's going to be very difficult from where we are sitting right now to kind of think about how this might go. But what's your general feeling and sense about how you think Chelsea will approach this game, and how Newcastle might approach it too?
Yeah, it's really hard to kind of, as you said, there's like so many different ways this could go, depending on, are Chelsea going to try and sign off the season and say, well, you know what, we botched this one up, but we're going to like make amends. Here's what you can expect next season. Is it plenty of players in the shop window because they're going to have to move some on for financial fair play sort of stuff, and the fact that they've got like plenty of squads that isn't going to get a game, so they're either going to have to loan them out. So even just to generate some interest to get them off the books in terms of the wages by a loan move, then these players are probably playing for their future. But at the same time, Newcastle players will be desperate to be involved in that Champions League squad. So even though we might be missing a couple of our senior players, as you said, there's no way Eddie Howe's going to approach any game as just this free hit, or, you know what, it doesn't matter if we lose this one. You just don't get that vibe from him. He seems to be like fully committed, fully focused, really ultra professional. So you'd think that he's going out there to try and win it, no matter what. And he tries to win every game. And sometimes that's what comes unstuck. And we can talk about that in the off season. But for me, I think I'd be very surprised if it wasn't a strong squad out there. It may be that, look, if we're 2-0 down and he brings Lewis Miley on to make his debut, or gives some of the fringe players a go, you don't blame them for that. Or, if we happen to be 2 or 3 goals up, then he might do that. But it's difficult to read exactly what sort of side's going to turn up. I mean, by all accounts, the golf day that was planned for the club.
Yeah, tell us about that. Tell us about that golf game. Yeah,
this is brilliant. So we were showing a picture this morning where Close House Golf Course was booked out. The whole club was booked out for Newcastle to have a golf day, but they'd been out in Osborne's apparently in Jesmond or whatever, having a bit of a celebration. There was 3 people turned up for the golf day. So yeah, I think they could be nursing some hangovers this morning, and it'll be interesting to see exactly at what point they decide to start training. There was talk that Eddie Howe was giving them the week off. I find that very difficult to believe. I think they may have had a day off to celebrate, but I think they'll be back in the training ground well and truly before this game, probably on the Friday or the Saturday. So look, if they're focused, I think they'll get a win. If they're kind of already planning for next season, but as I said, look, there's likes of Murphy and Miggy and Dan Byrne and a few of these others that'll be really keen to push to say, look, I know that I might not be the ultra first choice high profile player, but I've been a part of this and I want to be a part of next season as well. So I don't think anyone's going to rest on their laurels anything in this game.
I tell you what, it still gives me shivers when I think about that interview that Murphy gave after the Leicester game, where he's got the he's got the biggest,
got tears in his
smile.
eyes. He's like really struggling to like put his emotions into words. Yeah,
he's got the biggest smile in the world, as he always does anyway. But he's like, you can see the pride in what he's done for his team. You know, and it's wonderful to have players that are Newcastle fans. You know, you can't overestimate the impact, or underestimate rather the impact. Anyway, you can't. They have a wonderful impact on the team. They believe in it. They commit in it. They commit to it. Miggy's had a sensational season. These guys deserve to have a good game and to be in contention.
It's really good. It's really good at the moment. If you think about the Leicester game, we had Anderson, we had Longstaff. You've got Paul Dummett in and around the squad. You've got Murphy, who's a fan. You've got Dan Burns, a local lad. So you've got this kind of core of local players or players who are passionate about the club, and that can't help but rub off on the rest of the squad, even if they're not sort of buying into it, which by all accounts, I mean, the look on Botman's face as he was walking around the ground after the game against Leicester, and you could see he was just like, this is just amazing. It's like he couldn't sort of contain his excitement, the fact that like, oh wow, I can't believe I've come here. This is such the right move.
Yeah. Him and Bruno as well. He's obviously madly in love with the Toon at the minute. And speaking of Botman, he was one of the three that rocked up the close house.
Yeah, surprise.
Him, Matty Target, and Anderson there, who turned up, and nobody else. Everyone else buggered off and probably just nursed a hangover.
Still in bed.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say as well, how good is it to have a serious manager again, like a manager who, I mean, this is not really about the preview anymore, but we're almost finished with this preview anyway, because there's not a great deal more to say. But I just want to say something about, because this is the last one of the season, how wonderful and refreshing it is to have a leader of the team in Eddie Howe, who is serious. He's committed. He doesn't look at a game as a bias. We've said he commits to every single thing that he does at that club. The next day he's moved on. He's thinking about the next game. He would have been thinking about this Chelsea game from the moment the Leicester thing was over, the day after. And it just kind of brings into focus just how much we've missed the head, the focal point of the team, being such a well-rounded, selfless individual who puts the team in front of everybody before himself. When plaudits are coming out from the reporters, he always makes sure he says, and credit to the team. He doesn't take the credit himself most of the time. Whenever he gets a Manager of the Month award, it's the team that he's got around him, his coaching staff. They all get into the photograph. I don't know. Sometimes you might think, oh, the guy's just like, his ego's so big and he's doing this as part of his bit or something. And he does get under a lot of other team fans' skin. Like, I'm on the boards all the time, as I keep saying, and there's an awful lot of them, man, who don't like his smug grin. Like, as if that's it's not. I don't even identify it as a smug grin from the man. It's just the guy can't smile in a way that satisfies you. I mean, it's like, come on, mate. The guy's done tremendous things at Bournemouth. He's doing tremendous things at Newcastle. When everybody, including those idiots at TalkSport, wrote him off, before he'd even got the job. But just how much of an impact does he have on this team, and how does that reflect in the way that they perform on the pitch, but also how it sort of spills out into the crowd and how we all kind of get, absorbed and invested in everything that's going on around us.
I don't think it's smug. I think when you look at the relationship that he's built up with the fans, excuse me, with the fans, the players. Excuse me.
West End gangster there. Eddie Howe here.
Right,
the fans, the players. I'll knife you.
So we're back with a bit of a croaky throat, choking on a peanut or something. I don't know.
God, it's turned into a Sunday jazz radio thing. This,
but I don't think that Eddie Howe is smug when he's in his interviews. I think he's actually just got this really good rapport with the reporters that he's actually being interviewed by, and I think we've had some of these on the podcast as guests, and I think the fact that you're sort of seeing this banter, this kind of camaraderie and everyone's kind of bought into it. There's not this lockout anymore because everyone might ask awkward questions about the owner. Everything's open and everything's fine, and he handles himself with such dignity and like pride in the club, pride in himself, pride in his players, pride in the region that he's inherited. That I think he's just loving life at the moment, and you can't take that away from the guy. I mean, he's been phenomenal. He's not rubbing people's noses in it. And what I actually really liked was when they asked if this was his best achievement, and he was like, well, it's hard to kind of celebrate because we haven't really won anything. It's not like we've won a cup or anything like that. We haven't got silverware to show for it. We haven't won the championship title or anything like this. But he was still saying that his achievement of keeping Bournemouth up was the best achievement that he's had. And you think, well, no, fair play, because it's like, he's not just he's not giving what he thinks everyone wants to hear. He's actually being really truthful about it, but it doesn't mean that it's taking anything away from his achievement here. And I think it actually signals that, well, this has been great, but Bournemouth was better, and I want to beat that because I want to actually win something here.
Yeah, and as long as he's got that drive, it can only benefit the club, the fans, and everyone associated.
But if you think about it as a group of players, if you see that professionalism and how well he handles himself in the media conferences, and how considered he is when he speaks to everyone and when he answers questions, he never gets rattled, he never gets over enthusiastic, he never gets too down and depressed about a bad result. He's very level-headed, very calm, but super professional and still passionate about the region. And he's admitted that he's sort of bought in, and he's been, he's moved his family up, and everyone's here, and he's loving life at the club, and he loves the region, and he likes what's happening. If you're a player and you're doubting your place in the team, or you're wanting it to be all about you, and then you see your manager doing as well as he is, and everyone else is buying into that, and your manager's so professional and so calm, surely that rubs off on you, and you go, you know what, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be part of this. And I think you can see that in the playing squad, where we've had this no dickhead policy, and we can talk about the recent gym shenanigans of Mikhail Mudrich and videoing people at the gym, the stupid bellend. But it's like none of our players are doing that because of this no dickhead policy, and because the manager's setting the example. It's like we've come from, it's like, how's the bacon, did you say, to this eloquent speeches after games and interacting with the media, and it's just chalk and cheese, and I'm loving every minute of it.
No, absolutely. And I think back to people like Pardew, where it was all about him. It was always about him.
Yes.
But, one of the clear signs, I think, are how it rubs off on the players is when you hear them interview the players after the game. And particularly as we were getting towards Champions League qualifications, you speak to the likes of Kieran Trippier and you say, well, all right, so you've all been thinking about it and all this kind of stuff. And do you think it's done? Do you think it's dusted? And he's like, no, we've got the game tomorrow. We'll celebrate this now. We'll wake up tomorrow. We'll start training. We've still got a job to do. And that's coming down from the top. And it's just such a wonderful way to find your club being run. I can scarcely still believe it, mate. Honestly, it's just absolutely tremendous. And
there was definitely an unwritten rule of not speaking about Champions League.
There was, but again, that kind of came from the way Howe conducted himself, because he was getting asked every 5 seconds, and he was constantly saying, he was just batting them all away and saying, we haven't got there, we haven't achieved this, we haven't done that, with blah blah blah. Next game is all I'm caring about. I'm not thinking about the game after that, and that's what the players were starting to say on the pitch, and that's the clearest sign that it's really kind of trickling down from the top down to the bottom. Let's just wrap this up then. After that Eddie Howe love fest there. And also Mad Dog Tyndall, let's not forget him. He was actually did an interview recently, and he sounded really composed and thoughtful himself. And you can sort of understand that the way the two of them might work together. But then he's just an absolute lunatic on the just a Raj on the sideline there.
The Callum Wilson interview, when he was sort of effectively backing Tyndall and saying, well, look, we're all in this together, and we're all
that's why they stuck him. That's why they stuck him out front, wasn't it, in that team photograph?
Yes, it's just like total piss take by the club. It's
just
like
shove the varnish down
everything.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta love it. It was absolutely brilliant. What a club, what a team. Let's just round this out then with a score prediction for this Chelsea Newcastle game. You go first, mate.
Cheers. Look, I'm going to go for a 2-1. I think we'll have enough on the day. 2-1 win for us. But I'm not confident at all. I think this could either be this could go anyway. I'm going for 2-1, but I wouldn't want to put any money on it.
It's a real tough one to call, and we don't have Pope at the back, so Dubravka, the way he likes to pat the ball into the wave on Russian attackers. Oh, don't get me started on that again. I think I can see kind of any score from this. I don't expect Chelsea to be sitting back though, like Leicester did to great effect in the end, where they just basically parked all of the city of Leicester in the forward in the defensive third. I think with if we do make changes, we will be naturally weaker. The midfield is an area that I'm quite concerned about, really, if I'm being honest.
For sure.
With the quality that Chelsea have, they shouldn't have any trouble dominating that midfield, assuming that the likes of Joe Linton and Bruno don't start. If they do start, well, it's a different game. So, it's a tough one, isn't it? I think I can see it being a 2-2. I'm going to say 2-2.
2-2.
Yeah, we're going for Desmond 2-2. I think it's going to be a draw. Is it going to be a draw? But I can easily see it being a defeat because they're at home and they want to sign off in style and pride.
Yeah, absolutely
and
no idea how this
win
one's going to go.
Because they're absolutely sackless as a team. And
answers on a postcard, everyone.
Let us know in the comments.
Stick your comments below. Tell us what you think is going to happen, because God knows we don't know.
No idea. All right, mate. Well, look, that'll probably do it for this preview, this final preview of the Premier League season. We will have a review of the game after the match, which will, I suppose, be early next week. I guess on Monday, maybe Tuesday, something like that. And that'll do it for the season of podcasts for us. But we do have a lot of stuff planned over the summer. So please give us a like and sub if you don't mind, and keep up to date with the notifications as and when we release new content. But for now, Mark, that will do for us. We're not predicting a loss. Let's say that. We're not predicting a loss in this game. And hopefully Newcastle can get at least one more point on the table and to finish off in real style. So thanks to you, mate. Fingers crossed for a good game. And we will see you for the next one. Cheers, mate.
Indeed. See everyone in the off-season as well.